Now, this is a picture of me many, many moons ago. I'm the little girl in the yellow dress, and I'm surrounded by my cousins on tricycles, my bossy sister standing next to me. Now, whether grew up with siblings or not, whether you were bullied as a kid or not, I learned how to move toward pleasure and away from pain. We all do that. All right. So keep that in mind, how very important it is to look at one's past. You might even want to pull out some younger pictures of yourself and kind of make some sense. And that's actually what we do in one of my programs that I talk about. But all of this affects our early subconscious patterns in our developing brains, become those automatic familiar patterns in our adult relationships. Okay. And by the way, the brain is always looking for what's familiar. Keep that in mind. That's why we choose spouses that may be like our brothers or sisters that we related with, because again, those are familiar patterns. That's why you have chemistry with the person that you do get with and you do life with. So yeah, if that makes sense, or if anybody has any questions, feel free to put that in the chat, okay? Because the brain, being aware, I know we celebrated Groundhog Day Monday. It was, what's today? Is today Wednesday, I think? Anyway, we could become like that movie, Groundhog Day. Have any of you seen that movie with Bill Murray? Yes, put yes in the chat if you have seen that movie. If you're not familiar with the movie, it's basically about a reporter that goes to a town and reporting about Groundhog Day. Anyway, he ends up living the same day every day and the same thing happening, and it drives him crazy. Well, we got to be careful that we're not living that same year after year like that. A different relationship, maybe same patterns, okay? So here's where we're going. A simple and profound formula to calm the nervous system is what we are going to be looking at right now, okay? So what I'd like you to do is, take a deep breath of air. Our journey in life, since we have 95% subconscious stuff going on, is we are to become aware, okay? And we're going to do aware with a capital A. Are you with me? Put an A in the chat. So just so long as I know you're here, because I know everybody's got I think they've got their, I can't see you. In other words, I need that. So yes, A, all right. And so let's take another deep breath of air and slowly breathe out. Actually, that helps to calm me down too, okay? Did you feel a little bit of calming in that deep breath of air you just took? I want to invite you now just to either close your eyes if you want, or a soft gaze. And let's take another deep breath of air and just acknowledge your courage for being here. Tell yourself it's safe to be here. And you're not the only one needing this masterclass. Now take another deep breath and just open your eyes. And I'd like you to do this. Put your hand out in front of the screen right here, and then pat yourself on the back. Because you know what? You're here, and you are not alone, all right? Cool, I'm trusting y'all are doing that, all right? So awareness, as you can see, this is an acronym, isn't that cool? Awareness, that's clarity about yourself and your relationship, bringing up some of those subconscious patterns and unconscious patterns, because face it, we can't change anything that we are not aware of, right? So it's making space for to love our younger selves and ourself now. So that's awareness with a capital A. And by the way, all of this is in your workbooks here, okay? There's this page here where you can take notes and have some awarenesses, write that down. So let's take a deep breath of air, another deep breath of air, because we're going to be doing this throughout. And put your hand over your heart. And slowly breathe out. Now, be aware of your breath. Give yourself permission to slow down. Don't multitask, okay? This is not the time to do that. But just Be aware of your breath and tell yourself it's good to have compassion on you. All right? All right, take another deep breath. Part of the relationship reset program that I offer is to empower students to look back at both their highs and their lows throughout their lives with their own timeline exercise. And then somewhere in my timeline, somewhere in yours, okay, you have some patterns passed down through several generations before you were ever born. And that's the case for all of us, okay? But let's give ourselves plenty of grace. I'm going to say that word grace. It's not a bad word. I'm going to ask you to write it in the chat again every time it clicks for you, because this is so, so important. But we also do what you call a genogram, in which we discover relationship patterns from a diagram of their family tree, and we become even more aware of those automatic thoughts and behaviors and ways of relating that's been passed down. Again, it's raising our level of awareness. All right? And then before I share more, let's take another deep breath of air. Okay? And I want to share one of the biggest factors that I've discovered in keeping us unaware is our own isolation. It happened with me. I was, here I am, a relationship therapist, now a psychotherapist. My second marriage is falling apart. And it was a lot of what you call imposter syndrome. And that isolates you, okay? I'm not the only one. We get isolated when we have shame issues or we have imposter syndrome or whatever the case is. But again, I want you to give yourself plenty of grace, okay? Because my story is not unique on several levels. I've counseled with many others, and especially those of us that have the theology and the faith community seem to admire the wife that keeps on praying and being submissive and considers her responsible for God changing her husband's heart. Well, number one, research shows the opposite, okay, because stress can actually take you to an early death, and chronic stress keeps that cortisol and that adrenaline elevated. So as far as leading to your husband to, his heart changing, and maybe it does happen, but you're not responsible for that. Instead, you could get heart disease as a result. So being careful of your own wellness and your own abundant life is absolutely vital. But let's give ourselves plenty of grace for what we didn't know. Okay? Because it's not only our DNA and everything that's been passed down in our family lines. A lot of times it is in the culture, in our religious systems, and all that we have that has shaped how our neural pathways go. All right, our second task is to be intentional with a capital I. Write the I in the chat. I'm just telling you all to do this so that you know that you're not multitasking, at least so I know, okay? I want this to be good. Valuable information for you and for you to get out of it because I honor your time. Your time is vital and important. So put a yes in the chat if you were actually intentional to be here today. Some of you got the email, some of you actually downloaded the workbook and you clicked on the Zoom link, okay? So we do know what it's like to be intentional, and we made plans to be here. We imagine being here, okay? So we all know what intentions are as a result of plans, right? And then the R is based on our new awareness and intentions is to assess and take risks of growth with a capital R, okay? This is so very important. This is follow through with intentions and to change even though the results are unknown. Now, when I was when I was a little girl, I wanted to go off the high dive at our community pool, and I saw some other kids that were big, that were kind of like younger than me, and I thought, I can do that. And I was all excited. I started climbing the rungs of the ladder, and then you smell the chlorine and all of this, and all these kids behind you, and they're all like lined up on the ladder, and they're saying, and I wanted to go back, but I couldn't. I was past a point of no return, but it was a risk. Like, I was so scared and nervous. Well, I went off that high dive. I splashed in the water. I had so much fun. I ended up getting in that line over and over and over again because it was so much more exciting, and that low dive was actually boring. So we all go through things, and I think to get to this level in life, all of us, we've gone through risks of growth, not knowing what the results would be. So when it comes to emotional grounding in the face of your partner's narcissistic or selfish words, moods, or actions, it's as simple as breathing fresh air. Okay? Simple doesn't equal easy, by the way. And I don't want to discount how our nervous systems are affected by other factors. You can be in the same room with someone who's yelling at you. That's going to automatically trigger your nervous system. And there's an example. I was walking in the neighborhood, and I was walking. We have a lot of hills in our neighborhood, by the way. And all of a sudden, I hear these dogs barking, and hoping they're behind a fence, but they're coming down this hill, and I'm, walking here, and this dog comes charging at me with mean eyes and barking and threatening. Well, the owner comes out and says, "No, he won't bother you." Well, already my heart was beating really fast. Already I tripped and fell. That's simply not true. Yes, that dog was harmful to me, and it affected my nervous system. The best thing you can do is remove yourself from situations like that. You are not to be subjected to anyone else's, if anyone's showing up as a barking dog. No, don't stay in the same room. And so, but when you get away from that situation, honor your own nervous system, taking a deep breath, and that way you can settle down. So anyway, we're all human, and we are all affected by that. I didn't want to be Pollyanna and saying, "Oh, just breathe even when you're in the midst of an argument." No, you need to get out of that, okay? So let's move on, because this is the page in your workbooks, okay? You've got that. So we've got clarity, awareness, A.I.R, awareness. That's to review. This is clarity about yourself and your relationship. The I is intentions, based on specific plans, based on new awareness. And then the risk of growth, that's the follow through. Isn't that cool how that works as an acronym of A.I.R, which is the air we breathe? We actually need this for our own humanity. And I put this in a nice cutesy little diagram here. Awareness, intentions, and then we have risks of growth. Okay? Now for you, you've got it in your workbooks as well. And so as you go through this material, anything that comes up for you, there's a diagram, it's kind of small, but any kind of new awarenesses that you have even through this material, write it down, and I'll give you an example of what that's all about. So when I was going through major shifts in my life, major trauma, I've signed up for coaching and all kinds of things where I could surround myself with people who were able to see me and hear me. So anyway, long story short, I signed up for Les Brown's Power Voice program because I wanted to expand my voice on stage, and he was critiquing my 3-minute speech, and he was giving me some advice about it, and I thought, you know what, he doesn't know that I'm so self-aware, and I have all of this, and I kind of pushed back on some of what he was telling me about how to shape my speech and so on and so forth. But he said to me something I'll never forget. He said, "Judy, you can't see the label when you're in the jar. You can't see the label when you're in the jar." Now, if we were to take our example of, if this was it was an aha for me, okay? But if I were to write it in this diagram, just give you an example of what this is like. So you'd go to your diagram here, and you'd write, "Can't see label when you're in the jar." You want to remember that, because wow, that's pretty profound. It's true. And then the intention would be something like, "I'm going to ask for feedback and be more open, nurture this attitude of openness and curiosity." That would be the intention. And then the risk of growth might be something like, "I allow a trusted group, a person, another person who's got more knowledge about this thing that I'm learning, and to see me so that I can see myself more accurately."